Hey, friends, welcome to the Empowered Homes Podcast. The purpose of this podcast is to grow strong families and to help parents win at home. And I'm joined with my pal, Meg.
Hey, what's up?
And we have special guests. If you've listened to the show, you know this guy, Brad Flurry. Welcome.
Honored to be here.
Brad, we are excited that you're here because typically we get your wisdom on everything else. But today is very special because you have put pen to paper and created a new resource for parents. We always say we want to get stuff in the hands of parents, and you have written an incredible book for dads, for men, and even for wives too. We'll talk about that a little bit. But tell us the name of your book and kind of the heart behind it.
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me here, Bob and Meg. And the name of the book is Bias for Action. And really, it's looking at combating passivity in the life of men. And the way I described passivity is where a man refuses to take leadership in the areas of life that God has called him to, specifically in the home. And so you ask about where the book comes from is a couple of years ago, I was in a deer stand and I was hunting with my boys and some of their friends. But on this morning, it was bittersweet because they were out on different deer stands with their friends. So I was there by myself. And Bobby, you've been hunting with me, and there's something.
Which deer stand?
Yeah, number 9. It was good.
No, it's
So the sun comes up, and it was a bittersweet moment because in that moment, I realized they were coming into manhood. One was in college, one was about to go. And so I began to sort of just look back over the last, 2 decades of raising them, and was like, man, there's some things I did well, but a lot of things I wish I would have known. And Bobby, you and Megan know some of my childhood and upbringing. Did not have a father figure, and sort of the motto that you and I both have shared, Bobby, is I want to be the dad I never had.
Yeah.
And so in that moment, it's hard to explain, is I always have a journal with me in my deer stand because I do some quiet time and there's good moments. And I just took it out and I began to write lessons that I wish I would have known as a dad 20 years ago. And I began to write those and write those and write those. And what that turned into was what I call tasks. So tasks for men. And so the reason why I do tasks is sometimes men will think, man, our plates are already so full and you want to add something. I'm like, yes, I want to add the right thing, right? Because you've heard me say before, our intentions mean nothing. So I'm focusing on task, right? You can intend to bless your kids. You can intend to love your wife, but your intentions don't matter, only your actions. And so from there, I lined out 20 tasks that I think dads can do. And in doing so will help combat the passivity in their home.
Yeah, incredible resource. Again, the title of the book is Bias for Action, Combating Passivity and Fatherhood, these 20 tasks. And we're going to hit some of them, but I don't want to go through all of that. But, we do have shared kind of background with dads that weren't super involved. And a question I get a lot, and we've kind of talked about this off camera, but I thought it'd be a good insight because there's probably a dad in there going, man, I grew up similar. I didn't have an example. I didn't have, I always get asked like, what drives you to be such a good dad? Is it because you didn't have the example where like there's so many people who fall right back into that same pattern. So what was it for you that really solidified, I'm going to be different. I am going to be the dad I wish I had.
Yeah. First of all, the grace of the Lord and his blessing in my life, good grandparents. But to answer your question, Bobby, I think it was 2 things. It was number 1, seeing, even as a young child, this is not how it's supposed to be. You're not supposed to have violence in the home. You're in and out of prison, abuse. These things should not be in the home. And saying that's not how it should be. And I'm blessed enough to have some good friends who had the families where I could see a picture.
Yeah.
I could see a picture of a dad that was not passive, a dad who was present. And in those moments, I remember even as a 13-year-old child is saying, I want that, and I'm going to be like that. And so just making a decision then. And then through the course of my life, a lot of men pouring into me along the way, me asking them questions, but a lot of times them just coming alongside me as a young married man, as a young Marine, as a young dad, and mentoring me along the way.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm very similar. I look back at a very specific moment where I was like, I'm gonna do better than this.
Yeah.
There's got to be better, and by God's grace, over time and people very similar, that I was able to change that path, change that trajectory. Megan has a question for you, Brad. Let's talk about this book. I want every dad to read
Right.
this, but is this good for moms, Meg? You're a mom.
Well, yeah. I mean, I've read it, so I can tell you it's good for moms. But also, I think as a wife and a mom, just in terms of like thinking for your husband, right? Maybe wanting better for him as a dad, or maybe like me, I grew up without.
Right.
I had a dad, but he didn't do the things that are in this book, and so just talking from the standpoint of what it would be like for wives to read this and kind of their perspective that they would get in
Right.
a peek inside of for their
Man,
husbands.
it is I even put it in here in the intro is I recommend the men to let their wives know that they're reading this, right? To allow them to walk with them through it, because Megan, I know you, I know your marriage, Bobby, I know you and Jen, and one thing that Jen and Megan do so well, my wife Liz does, is you're the greatest encourager. Right. And so as a mom or a wife that may want to read this or check this out or just say, my husband needs to read it, is no, you don't want to beat him over the head with this. You need to encourage him along the way. Be his biggest cheerleader, be his biggest fan. Don't point out the flaws in these 20 tasks because every guy has one in all of these. Let him know what he does well and encourage him as he walks through this.
Yeah, I love that. And I actually texted your wife and I asked
Oh
her,
boy.
and she said the same thing. And that's what I love is that is exactly what she does. I know that
Yeah.
to be true. She's your biggest fan and your biggest encourager. And so that's what she said for moms and for wives to read it, because it's not you don't want to find all the flaws in your spouse. That's not helpful.
Right.
But it's to continue to encourage and to grow as a wife and a spouse, and to know. She said, I want to continue to grow every day and to seek to be a better Christian wife, mom, and friend. And she said, being a great wife means encouraging and supporting your husband to be who God has called him to be.
Right.
And so I just love that encouragement that she
Yeah.
sent.
I mean, and sometimes, especially for the ladies that may be watching, is if this spurs your husband to try these things, right? Don't be the one to be like, what are you doing? Right. Is what, well, if he's trying to go first, if he's trying to outserve in the home, if he's trying to bless the kids, is be a participant in there, but allow him to lead.
Mhm.
Right. Especially in the area where he may have not been leading before, is now you can step back and allow him to do it. And then he's no longer being passive in the home.
It's good.
Yeah, it's not like we say all the time, especially with marriage, about keeping score.
Right.
These 20 tasks, you're not to go through and go, he's good at this one, it's not good at this one, he's good at this
Right.
one. You
Yeah.
start tallying
Yeah.
off.
Don't give him a report card.
Yeah, there's no
Yeah.
just ultimate encouragement,
Yeah.
and allow him to stumble forward through a lot of this stuff if he's really trying. And again, I love what you said. Too often, I'll see a guy I'm walking with. He's like, I'm trying, but my wife thinks I'm up to something, and then it causes more
Yeah.
friction. And that's where you got to communicate, over communicate, keep trying. And so these 20 tasks, I would love to go through all of them with you, but I just want to hit three and,
Okay.
and leave some suspense for the readers to go,
Okay.
I got to grab the book. So three, not in any order. I just kind of picked these. Task number one I want to cover is, you already mentioned it, is go first. So let's explain that.
Well, first of all, I believe that the husband's role in the home is to be a sacrificial leader, right? We represent Jesus in our home, but really, from a practical standpoint, Bobby, it's to go first. Right. Somebody has to go first. And I use some military examples of courage on the battlefield, of somebody going first and the inspiration that it causes their men, and a lot of times survival and success. And so for a man, it's really simple. It is in conflict, somebody has to apologize first, go first. Right. Somebody needs to say, I love you first, go first. Right. Somebody needs to do the dishes sometimes, go first. Somebody. And so from a practical standpoint, is we say, go first in your home, outserve, out love, be the one that blesses before anybody else. And so as a man to say, hey, I'm not going to wait, right? I'm not going to wait for my wife to say, hey, let's take the kids to church tomorrow. Go first. Saturday night, I'm going to make that decision. So in all those things where the man can put in his mind sort of an initiative, right? How do we combat passivity is with initiative. So we're going to go first. And so it's just a simple concept of men in your home in the areas of friction or even a little success is you go first.
Yeah, and I know guys that have heard this message from you before, and I'm in a small group with, and we'll have a conversation, and that phrase sits with us. It's
Yeah.
we'll talk about different stuff, and I'll have a buddy go, "Hey, go first, man, go
Yeah.
first," and it's become kind of this mantra for us. I even have a little thing in my truck on my dash, it says go first, just to remind myself, like, hey, how am I leading? But with going first, I think a lot of times with guys, there's some fears and insecurities with going first. And so, what are some of the fears and insecurities do you see with a lot of men when it comes to leading spiritually in the home?
Right. And so they may feel totally underqualified.
Mm.
Right. Is for a lot of men, they may actually say, my wife is more spiritually mature than me. My wife is actually the spiritual leader. And so it can be a very weird, as you mentioned, friction point for them where they feel unqualified for that. But I think, Bobby, for them is to realize this is their responsibility, right? And so God's not going to call you to something and then not equip you. And so go first sometimes is not taking giant steps. It's a small step, right? And so if you mention spiritual leadership, then it's that. It may be, hey, tonight at dinner, we're gonna pray. Maybe it's not you, maybe it's somebody else, right? But you're taking the initiative in that. It's with your wife, like, hey, are we going to pray together? Are we going to have a quiet time? Are you going to do a quiet time? What's that going to look like? Are we going to pray with our kids? But it can be some very small steps in the beginning that helps them go first without having to be something that's very huge.
Yeah.
I didn't say run a marathon. I said go first. So take those initial steps.
Yeah, with those little things, and I like it is a call to combat the passivity because we want to kind of get into our routines or our rhythms and kind of be passive in this, but to say go first, it is pushing. It pushes myself. It's pushing other guys. It's pushing our brothers. Like that's what God's called us to do. And so, a lot of times we say in men's ministry or different stuff, like we don't want to browbeat or make guys feel like they're just bad at everything. But this one is a little bit of a push.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's unapologetically.
Right,
Yeah.
right. I mean, because with the go first, a lot of times we'll say outserve, right? It is as the man, you should be the best servant in your home. Right? If I'm reflecting Christ in my home, even in my imperfections, then I outserve, right? With my wife and kids, if somebody was to ask them, who's the servant leader in your home? It's dad, without a doubt. And so sometimes that's done quietly with no fanfare before anybody else gets up. But it's going first in all those areas that allows your family to feel loved and cared for and respected.
Yeah. It's racing to the end of the line.
That's
We say
right.
that all the time.
Absolutely.
So go first. That's the first task.
Go
Second,
first.
second task I want us to hit. It's one of my favorite. It has made a huge impact for me and even our family, and even my kids have caught on to this one
Yep.
because they push us too. Task number 2 is be a yes dad. What does that mean?
Be a yes dad. And so,
Yes day.
Bobby, be a yes dad, right? Yes dad is over a decade ago, a good friend and mentor of mine that I was meeting with for coffee, he gave me some advice. He said, Brad, he goes, just for you and Liz, as you raise your boys, they were about 10 and 8 at this time, as you raise them undoubtedly based upon your beliefs, your values, just the discipline that you have in your home, your kids are going to have tighter boundaries than some of their friends, right? They're probably not going to be able to watch certain movies, listen to some music. They're not going to get cell phones at 7 years old. They're not going to get these things. So they're going to have some tighter boundaries. The way you can help with that is within those boundaries to say yes to everything you can, right? And so I thought, so okay, that's a good idea. Be a yes dad. And I remember this was in early February when he said that. And then Bobby, in the next month, it's spring break. It is March Madness, which is, if people watch, that's a big basketball tournament, and my boys are a big fan of that. And so they come in my room at about 9 o'clock on a Thursday night. I go to bed early, right? And so I'm getting ready for bed, and they come in, they say, Dad, do you want to go to Buffalo Wild Wings and watch the second game of March Madness? So immediately I'm about to say no, right? I mean, I'm ready to go to bed. And dadgummit, Bobby, is Terry Sal's voice in my mind says, be a yes dad. And so I look at the boys and I said, guys, you're asking me to go eat wings at 9 o'clock at night, right? Well, Dad, it's not a school night, it's spring break. And I said, we leave in 10 minutes, right? They lit up, right? And Bobby, I can tell you, is we hopped in my truck, we went, we ate, and it was more than wings. It was conversations, it was a moment, it was a memory. And I look back on that, and if I would have not have had that conversation with Terry, is I would have said no. And I would have said no for one reason, my convenience and my comfort. Right. And I would have missed that. I'd have missed that moment. And so from then, as I saw the fruit of that, and so sometimes it's big moments where you're saying a yes to, but a lot of times it's little moments. Hey, will you play Legos with me?
Yeah.
Will you go outside and throw the ball? Right. Yes. Yes. And if, sometimes it's, hey, give me 5 minutes, let me finish this, and then I'll come with it, right? And so there's I don't want the dads listening to immediately think of the exceptions. No, think of all the times that you can say yes, and you can be a yes dad or a yes mom.
Yeah, and your kids remember that.
They do.
Even last night, Chapman, he didn't have practice, but we had a you know a batting cage reserved and all this stuff, and anybody could go. It wasn't required, and his team. And Chap's like, "Dad, can we go?" And I was exhausted. I was like, "I don't really want to." He's like, "Dad, I really want to go." So be a yes, dad. So I got there, and then sure enough, I found out that I was the only dad to show up. So I threw BP
Hmm.
to 10 kids for an
Yeah.
hour and a half, and I can't feel my arm right
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
Like it's my
Yes,
arm hurts
that's the
so.
cost of a yes dad, but
But
you
we
wouldn't miss it for anything.
no, we had so much fun. We laughed. Kids were hitting, almost hit me twice. Like they thought it was the fun. And Chap woke up this morning talking about it. He's like,
Yeah.
"Dad, you see, Brendan almost killed you last night because he hit one right by my head." But it was just such a moment. I remember having to tell myself, "Be a yes, dad,"
Right.
and we did it. And Megan,
Yeah.
we say often too, you can be a yes mom.
Absolutely.
I know you.
Well, and I just love the progression of also how it opens up communication with your children. So if you're being a yes parent, a yes dad, and that's even if it didn't start when they were little, but if it starts when they're young and you're dropping the things or saying, "Give me 5 minutes and then come," and you follow
Yeah.
through,
Yep.
like how that opens up communication for your kids because as they get
Mhm.
older, those times where they're asking you to do something are fewer and far
Right.
between. And so, but they know they can come to you. And
Right.
so I just love that it's like the progression of the yes, what that really opens up
Right.
is yes, it's fun, but you're also opening up intimacy and communication and all those things.
Conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, and the beauty of this is when we say be a yes dad, Bubba, your kids are moving in your direction.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's something we should never take for granted as a parent, right? Because your mine are out of the house now, they're in college. And so we don't have that as much, right? But man, if they move in mom and dad's direction, yes, right? That's what the Lord does to us, right? The Lord doesn't say, give me a minute, I'm working on this,
So true.
or punish me with lack of his presence. No, right? And so a lot of times is just being present is so huge. And so when your kids ask you that, man, as much as you can, and it's going to battle your convenience and your comfort, but man, say yes.
Yeah, and if your kids pick up on it, if it's language or part of your culture,
Yeah.
I battle this with my oldest because he's a smart aleck. He'll ask for something knowing it's just outrageous. He's
Yeah.
like, "Can I get the Millennium Falcon Lego set that's $400?"
You're
And
not being a yes
He's
dad.
like, "You're not being a yes dad. Come on."
Yeah.
I'm like, "You're dumb."
Yeah.
But it is such an easy win to just again put this language in your mind of like, okay, I can say yes. What can I say yes to? Because there is so many things that we have to say no to, but this is a huge one. Task number 3, I just want to hit on, and we've got 17 more that are in the book.
Yeah.
So these are all so good. We can go through all of them, but this one is, I think, one that it's powerful, but it gets missed by a lot of busy dads, but dads who are scared to kind of open up to this. But it's one of my favorite ones in the book. Task number 3: build an alliance with other dads.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
Bobby, in our men's ministry, we quite often say alone is dangerous, right? And in men is we can wake up and find ourselves doing life totally alone, right? And so this, once again, is combating the passivity in that to say, men, you need to build an alliance. And the way I'm framing this one, it's with the dads of your kids' friends. Right. I had a good friend of mine named Mickey Rodriguez, and he told me a long time ago, he said, you should be friends to the best of your ability, or at least know the parents of your friends' friends. Right. And so I took that to heart, and I've been blessed through the years for both of my boys, their close knit group of friends, 3 or 4 boys for each one, to develop a great friendship and alliance with those other men. And so we've taken trips together. We've done things with the boys. We had a breakfast every Thursday at Torchy's or Chick-fil-A all through junior high and high school. We would meet with just the boys. And it was, we would pray at the end, but there was not like there was a guided discussion each time. It was just letting these boys see. And if you have girls, absolutely, you can still do this, Bobby. You've got a daughter.
Yeah.
But letting them see that, hey, my dad had friends.
Mm-hmm.
Right. My dad had friends. And so that was a big part of it. And second is this, I can't provide my kids everything they need. right? Is that there's sometimes men that have an expertise that I don't have, that has life experiences that I don't have.
Mhm.
And so, especially as they got older, I have told them by name, you were one of those. Joe Landy was one of those. Stephen Teeley, there's others that said, I would say, hey, if you've got a question and you're not comfortable coming with me, go to these men, right? Now they're going to come back and tell me, absolutely,
Yeah.
right? But they can provide guidance. And then on a practical level is one of my boys is studying part of his stuff of business in college. That's not my cup of tea, right? I've had no experience in that. So as he was thinking about that, he called some of the other men in our alliance, and sat down and had coffee and picked their brain about what that looks like for future careers. And so for the men, just to know is, I think if you look at your kid, whether a son or daughter, look at the people that are in their life, their close friends. As I would say, man, you need to move in the direction of their parents. And if you can, more than just a casual acquaintance, and be friends. And what came of this was some great friendships. One of the traditions that we started every year before school started, we would get these boys and all their parents together. We'd have a big dinner, and then we'd have a time of blessing, which was one of the tasks, and prayer over these boys before they went to college. We did that in eighth grade all the way through their freshman year
Mm.
of college. And so our boys got to see that, man, our dads have real friendships.
Yeah. And it's so important too, you mentioned having other voices in your kids' lives, and not even just their voice, but their actions and how they interact. I'll
Yeah.
never forget Chandler went to dinner with one of her friends, and it's a dad that I'm close with, and they went out, and she came home just talking about how Mr. Mark loves his girls,
Mm.
and she thanked me for loving her the same way. So she got to see a model of a like-hearted dad doing the same thing, and
Yeah.
it's not crazy. Like, it's a normal part
Yeah.
because it's a part of our community. And building that alliance with other dads, not to get negative, but Brad, what are some barriers? Because I can hear in my head some things of dads going, that sounds great, but there's
Yeah.
barriers, there's realities to actually
There is. So
happen.
the barriers, number one, is going to be yourself always, right? It's my convenience. And these go and step together. Is guess what? When it comes to building that alliance, someone has to go first, Bobby. We just talked about that. Somebody has to make the first call, right? Hey, I remember texting the other dads. Hey, you guys want to get together first, have coffee. You want to go to Torchy's? Do you want to do this? So number one, somebody goes first. A guy doesn't want to do that, especially with other guys. And plus is these men that may be watching this, they may have other friends, right? And so I'm asking them to add to their pool of friends. But I think it is worth it, to be involved in the life of the other men that may be influencing your kids.
Yeah, it's totally worth it.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So, Brad, again, the book, if you're still hanging on with us, listeners, Bias for Action: Combating Passivity and Fatherhood, 20 tasks for every dad. Brad, thank you for just your heart putting this together. And I know I've
Appreciate
seen
it.
you the last almost 9 years as you are a father. I've learned so much from you, and this is going to bless so many people, and
Mhm.
especially Meg, the moms to take this and to encourage their husbands, but also read it themselves. Thanks for just putting this.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks.
It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, you can access Brad's book. You can buy it Amazon and anywhere, but you can also get a ton of great resources that are connected to this at empoweredhomes.org.